So I'm back at the 800 amp circuit breaker, and I've gotten it mostly cleaned up from the debris. And I gotta tell you, this thing is rugged because I was beating on it first with a 4 pound hammer, then with the sledge, and it doesn't look like it took all that much abuse. It looks like if I had a case to put back on, it might still work. But anyway, I'll tell you first off why this thing kind of scares me and makes me worry that it's going to break my finger. If you've ever dealt with a snow machine, you'll notice that those springs in there look a whole lot like the exhaust springs on a snow machine. And there's four of them. And man, those exhaust springs, just one of them, what a son of a bitch they are. And so, I mean, this thing don't want to move at all. So I don't know which way it's going to let go. And that's a bit scary. Anyway, some interesting things. I did find out that a lot of what we're dealing with here is, of course, silver clad copper, which is not bad. Not bad. Drilled some test holes. If I can get it to focus. So that's obviously copper. And the same with this guy. This center bar holding all of them together. Oops. I believe that's just a piece of steel or aluminum covered in paper. So I thought that these were really interesting here. I've never seen this. These are hex head screws, but I think that they're copper. They're not magnetic. They're way too soft to be bronze, or brass, rather. I mean, they're the color of copper. I've never run into these. So I guess this is what it looks like when it's made to handle 800 amps. Could you imagine the energy running through this thing? Yeah, it's just crazy. Electricity scares me, and I think that it's a good thing to have a healthy fear of electricity. You know, not so much that you are petrified of it and you can't be around it or work on it, but enough that it's conscious in your mind anytime you're working on it or around it. There's also these little brass pins. There's a pretty decent amount of brass here. I almost got excited that that could be gold, and then, you know, it smelled like pennies, and that was that. There's some obvious copper on there. You know, some of this stuff is going to warrant further testing, but a lot of it's pretty upfront. So I'm going to continue taking this apart, try not to break my fingers. Yeah. And this, by the way, this guy's heavy. Where is my scale? About 190 grams. Yeah, almost a half pound. I think these copper bolts are neat. Can't say I've ever seen those. Another chunk of aluminum. Some big wires going in there. Wow. Yeah, I guess this thing's seen some use, huh? Oh, this is all good steel, you know? Not worth much, but that's certainly the biggest I've ever seen. I don't know what these are called. Oh, yeah. So, you can't really see it, but there's a sizable chunk of something else down there. Pretty big chunk of silver. That shit's stiff. It's like gasket paper, but it's really tough. It's not gasket paper, it's like gasket plastic. Super tough. Yeah. Oh, it is paper. the springs are unloaded right now. Look at that giant chunk of copper clad or silver clad copper. That's huge. I've never seen it that big. Yeah, that's copper. So I think I'll go about getting the rest of these blocks off and these packs until all we've got left is this big tensioned thing in the middle. And then we'll go from there and see what we got for silver contacts. So I'm working my way into liberating these contacts, but I wanted to show you what I've gotten out of here so far. Look at this. If only that were silver. And I think that one right there just might be. This guy right here. This ramp here is obviously copper. But I think that this guy's silver. But I just wanted to show you the size of that. I thought the other one was heavy. Ooh, that is a solid 700 grams. It's on its way to 1.5 pounds. It's well over a pound. About a pound and pound and 3/8 maybe. So, and this isn't junk copper tubing. After I get the silver plating off of that, that's solid copper. That's good. All right. Back on the hunt. So we got more silver popping up all over. Getting this thing off was a bitch. All them springs, and then it had locking 3/8 millimeter bolts or nuts on these bolts here, and that was a pain because I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but everything's 10 millimeter these days. You don't see 3/8 all that often. So the first challenge was finding a 3/8 socket. Anyway, when I got it off, obviously this one in the very center is the actual contact conductor. This one with the horn. And so sitting up in there where the spring was seated was this guy right here. And that is a solid silver contact. Pretty happy about that. And then I found some more silver. Not only is there silver here, but then I noticed these guys here too. And here. So I drilled it. Oh, this isn't easy to do. Come here. There we go. So I drilled it. And it's silver. And then, of course, all of this silver clad copper. And not only that, but I'll be interested to know what these are. These could be silver. They could also be aluminum. Or they could be steel. Well, no, they can't be steel because they're not magnetic. So we shall see. Onward. So I'm going to wrap this up because it's taken a lot longer than I thought. But basically, this thing is loaded with silver. All right. Now, the switches that we're making these days, they don't have that much silver. They have a little bit, right? This is what you're going to find in the breakers these days. That little silver contact right there. All right. As a comparison, this guy right here, I pulled this guy off of one of these. This thing's from the 50s. All right. This guy right here, I pulled this off of a 250 amp breaker that was, if I had to say, maybe from the 70s or 80s. And then this, obviously, I don't know when this was made, probably around 70s or 80s. But obviously, the bigger the box, it needs the better the build, the construction, basically. So this has a lot more silver than I thought it would. Not only do we have this silver, but also this and this. On the reverse sides, where those strike, and here, and this piece, I thought was copper, but I think that's just had some copper transfer onto it. Flip it over, drill it, and it's solid silver. That's a pretty good chunk right there. And that, all what I just showed you, you can multiply that times 3. And that's what I'm going to get out of this box that somebody threw on the side of the road. So, I would say that was a pretty good haul. I definitely don't regret picking this thing up and throwing it in the back of my Honda. I also got all this brass and copper. I mean, that's just great. That's just great. Not to mention aluminum. It all adds up, and especially when it's in this form. This is the pure form. It starts to add up real quick. These days, you get stuff like this, right? This came out of a junction box or a meter box. This is the extent that we will put copper or silver clad copper in boxes these days. Compared to this, okay, this is what? It's just a couple grams. I don't even know if it'll register on the scale. So maybe 40 or 50 grams right here. This thing's almost 1.5 pounds. Solid copper with solid silver and with a really healthy silver plating. I mean, look at the comparison in color. Look at that. Look at that color comparison. So, my point being is when you're scrapping electronics, whenever you see anything old, okay, I don't care if it's some little junk radio or if it's electrical equipment or what it is, any electronics, if it's old, it's always going to be better than the newer stuff. I mean, I'm getting more precious metals out of this right here than I've gotten out of some computer towers that I pulled out of dumpsters that were made just a year ago. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching me do this. I certainly enjoyed doing it. Don't give a shit if you subscribe to my channel. Don't give a shit if you like my video. Fuck all that. fuck social media. But this was fun. So, have a good one.